Good morning.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We'll get started in about 1 minute. All right, everybody, I just want to say hello and welcome to our third and final session on bringing your business online. Today's session is focused on search engine optimization. I'm Jolene Carey Pace, the program coordinator at Wilkes University Small Business Development Center, and I'm thrilled that all of you could join us this morning. Before we begin, I would like to thank Cole Creative for partnering with us in this series and for sharing their presentation today. We're lucky to have with us again Holly Pilcavage, CEO of Cole Creative, and web developer Travis Antonello. I hope I said that right, Travis.
Yes, you did.
Just a brief note before we begin to please put yourselves on mute so that we can avoid having any background noise. And also as we go along, you can type any questions that you might have into the chat box. And there will be time at the end of the presentation to ask any questions that you might have. And now I will turn the program over to Holly and Travis. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jolene. Good morning, everybody. We always kick these things off where we're already in presentation mode, so I don't know how many familiar faces versus new faces there might be. So you're going to get a little bit of the same spiel we've been giving at the beginning of all of these, but you'll notice one major difference this week is that today I have Travis, our web developer here at Cole Creative. He's in a separate window. He is working remotely. We're taking all of the precautions and whatnot with everything going on in the world. So he'll be here to kind of guide us along through this particular presentation. I'll be here again to offer those insights so that we're breaking things down in an understandable and digestible way, and also monitoring the chat. Just like every other week, definitely encourage you to throw out any questions you have. We will always do our best to answer them as thoroughly as we can. And if we don't know something, we're going to tell you we don't know it, and hopefully connect you with some people that do. So the first week we talked about social media. The second week we talked about websites. And today we're going to be talking about the beast that is SEO, which stands for search engine optimization. And I refer to it as that is because I think it's come up a couple different times, and this is before I even get into intros or anything, but I just wanted to plant this seed and almost mentally prepare you. In the last two sessions, we've gotten the outreach that people would love for these to be half day or full day sessions because there's so much to go through. And I just want to make you aware that the SEO is in the same boat. It's going to be one of those things where we're going to be, throwing out different words, going over some definitions, letting you know why some of these things are important. But I don't want anyone to get too discouraged if by the end of it you're like, well, I feel like I'm in the same place, or maybe even more confused, or whatever it might be. SEO is definitely one of those elements of just the internet and the digital world that can get a little wonky, but it is important, especially if you are running a small business or starting something or trying to do things on your own, for you to at least have, I think, some basic understanding. Or if you are working with a freelancer or even an agency like Cole Creative, for you to have that understanding so that you know maybe what questions to ask, or to be able to at least grasp it when somebody like Travis lets you know, like, hey, I'm doing X, Y, and Z that pertains to your SEO, just so you kind of know what's going on with that. So a little bit of a longer-winded intro here, and I already see William Birch is asking, so who is the second? So we're going to go right here. Again, thank you to the SBDC for allowing us to hold these sessions. I look forward to hopefully putting something else together in the future as well. I know that we've been really enjoying offering these to all of you, so just so I don't forget to thank everybody for joining us the past few weeks. It's been an absolute pleasure for all of us to stay connected. So to jump right in here and to kick us off, so that you can see, since sorry, I'm trying to move the boxes here and it's glitching a little bit, just so you can see who Travis is, since we aren't really all on that gallery shared screen just yet. I think you're familiar with me at this point. I am the CEO of Cole Creative. A reminder and reiteration that Cole Creative is a creative agency located in downtown Wilkes-Barre, right on Public Square. That's where I'm coming from today. And we are storytellers at heart. We love NEPA, and we do a wide variety of different projects through various services like video production, social media, web design and development, and strategy and consulting. So that's where we're coming from. And I have Travis here. And Travis, if you wouldn't mind jumping in, introducing yourself, saying hello.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Travis Antonello. I'm a web developer at Cole Creative. I've been there for almost 2 years now. And my role at Cole Creative is to work with our partners and create the websites that match their visions and meet their expectations and their goals. And yeah, SEO is just one little piece of this whole puzzle that typically comes towards the end of the development process. But yeah, we're here to shed some light on the mystery of it.
Thank you, Travis. Travis will be the first to say to you all that he is not the expert in SEO, but I have, in one car ride a year ago on the way to a client, just asked him all these questions and picked his brain, and he knows a lot more than he gives himself credit for. So we're really excited to have him here and help guide us in this conversation. So just a plant here and a reminder of all the wonderful faces of the people that I get to work with every single day, as well as Travis. This is our full team, the people that are behind Cole Creative, that are fueling all of the different projects. And I always just like to give them a little bit of a holler, and just so you can see we are real people. We love NEPA and we love what we do. So that is us, and I think it is time to officially jump in. So I think to get started, the most relevant question here, while we defined the acronym of SEO and that it stands for search engine optimization, Travis, I'm going to throw it to you. Can you get a little bit more in depth for us here?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the last word of it is sort of the main focus here. Obviously, when it comes to search engine optimization, the first thing you're going to think about is, am I the first result of Google? Am I the second result of Google? Am I on the front page of Google? And there are different sort of steps you have to take, or different things you have to tweak along the way to make that actually happen. And I was thinking about this. The first thing you see when you go on a search engine, when you Google something, or obviously Google is not the only search engine, I'll put that right out there, but it's,
what are some of the other search engines? We have a wide variety of different backgrounds.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's like Yahoo, Bing. There are other privacy focused search engines like DuckDuckGo. But one of the first things you'll see when you do a search is how many results there are. And I don't know if that's something typically pay attention to, but there will be hundreds of thousands or millions or billions of search results. So getting on the front page of a search engine is not that easy. So there are different things you have to optimize along the way, such as like your images. They have to have what are called alt tags, which are like a sort of descriptor. But that's just, scratching the surface. I'll leave it at that. But optimizing the content on your website so that it appears more effectively when your website is being indexed, which I think sort of rolls over to that next slide we've got.
Oh, sure. And just a quick note, and sorry, Travis, I'm going to
No, please. I'm sure I'll sort of start rambling, so it'll be nice to.
So basically, last week, if you were in the session, we talked a lot about the website and whatnot, and we looked at the front end of a lot of websites and just, what we visually see when we go to www.colecreative.com and things like that. A lot of what we're going to be referring to when we're talking about SEO is that back end of the website. So if you've ever logged into the back end, meaning you have a username and password, and it's the behind the scenes, a little bit of a scary, maybe overwhelming back end of menu items and different things that you can click through. There's all of these different things that you can do. And again, because we want to be as top level, high level overview in this presentation, we're not necessarily pulling up any of those things. So I apologize for any lack of particular visuals, but again, we're just trying to go over high level words and things to consider. When he says alt tags, those are things that images that you see on your website on the back end that you're able to go in and add in and whatnot. But again, that would be a different, longer half-day session where we get into the nitty-gritties of those things.
Yes.
So move it right along. We're going to define a couple of terms and definitely spend a little bit of time here, Travis, and I'll jump in as well as needed.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first thing that was mentioned is what ranking your website has as far as the search result goes. So that term, that indexing, that refers to where a search engine is placing your website in those search results. So if you are indexed poorly, you would be maybe on the 4th, 5th, 6th page of the search results. However, if you are indexed well, that is your placement. Indexing is synonymous with your placement in the list of search results. So jumping to the next scary term here, we have web crawlers. So we've mentioned indexing, but we have to talk about how your website gets indexed. So what happens with your websites is they are crawled by what are called little spiders or bots. And so those go through your website line by line in the code, in the images and whatnot, and they try to make sense of the content of your website. So when the content of your website is going to determine how it relates to search terms or different things like that. So it's not just, your website doesn't just magically appear on a search engine. There are things going on in the background where there are bots crawling through the content of the site. It's not just magic, but yeah.
Yeah, and there's a couple things that come to mind for me and Travis. Maybe you could fill in a little bit. So one is, believe it or not, and maybe you've come across these things, there's a lot of websites that are built to just be spammy or that don't really go anywhere. And that's part of the reason why I'll use Google as the main kind of platform we're talking about here. But they want to ensure that the website that you just built and put out there isn't something spammy or that's going to cause a virus or do something like that. So it's going to take the time, and I believe this is related to some extent, of doing that crawling and making sure that, you know, your forms and whatnot and all of the content on there is meant to be intentional and purposeful, and it's real. So that's part of it. The other piece, and I might be jumping the gun a little bit with the content or with the content that we're going through, Travis, but with talking about indexing and talking about the web crawling and how that does take time, I know something we hear a lot at Cool Creative is, okay, you built my website and you made it live yesterday. I'm still not showing up 24 hours later. Can you talk to me a little bit about, and the group here, a little bit about the time that it genuinely takes for this to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is the approach where you can sort of wait and see if these web crawlers, after weeks and months, usually if you don't submit your sitemap, which is the next one below, if you don't submit your sitemap directly to search engines, it will still appear on search engines, but just at a later time. And yeah, and if it's a good time, I can move on to sitemap and talk about that.
A perfect segue, yep.
Awesome.
So, and just a note here that it's a bonus that we're actually reiterating something we went over last week. And while we were going through it, we noted that it would come up in SEO. So just letting everybody know that that's the crossover here. So go ahead.
Awesome, yeah. Yeah, so when you develop your website, and this can change based on what platform you're developing it on, whether you're doing it manually, you're coding all the HTML pages, or you're using something like a web builder, like WordPress, sorry, still waking up, using something like WordPress or a similar kind of content management system, you can generate a file, what is called a sitemap. And what that sitemap is just a big list of all of the pages on your website. So if, so as those web crawlers, like imagine the web crawlers are sort of just running around in the streets and they're stopping at buildings and those buildings are websites. The first thing they're going to do when they stop at that website is see if there's a map anywhere so that they can properly find all of the pages on your website. Those sitemaps will also, similar thing, there's a list of instructions that can be given to web crawlers. That's sort of high level, I won't really get into that. But that sitemap is going to make it easier for those web crawlers to properly find all the pages on your website and to run through the contents of them.
I do have a question here, Travis. I don't know, because I don't personally know the answer, and I don't know if it's something that you can easily answer, but I'll throw it out to you. And if not, we can connect with the person directly after. But can you share how you submit your sitemap to search engine?
Yeah, absolutely. So this will depend on the search engine. For example, Google, I believe that is built in through Google My Business. So once you prove that you have ownership of your website through Google, you can submit that sitemap file directly to them. And that's just through some Google menus through My Business. But similarly, I think with Yahoo and Bing, honestly, the best thing you could do is say like Bing submit sitemap or Yahoo submit sitemap in a search engine, and it should lead you right to that spot.
Great, and that was a great question. Thanks, Travis.
Yeah, great question.
Just to jump back in here. So this
yes.
was, I don't know if there's anything specifically, I'm the one navigating the PowerPoint and Travis is presenting. So Travis, you let me know where you need me to go. I know we talked a little bit about creating the sitemap, and last week, just so you're aware, while you were out, Sam and I went over, we use this, this is actually an older version of our sitemap at Full Creative. We have tweaked it since then with the apply section and whatnot. But basically, just a reiteration that the elements across the top, and if you could see my mouse kind of circling the about, services, portfolio, internships, etc. Those are the main menu items. And then here, these are essentially the drop downs or the additional pages that relate to each of whatever the top item is, and basically creating a bit of an experience and journey that somebody can go through to fully learn about who we are, what we do, etc. in the way that we laid it out and found things important. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add to this, or even to focus on a little bit with the sitemap as you're creating it. Any tips you would want to personally offer?
Yeah, for sure. Just one thing I want to keep in mind, or I want people to keep in mind, the pages that show up on your navigation there, those will not be the only pages on your website, which is to keep important, or keep in mind as important. So when you are creating the sitemap file, if you're doing it manually, you'll have to keep that in mind. But otherwise, if you're using a tool on a website builder, it will mostly be automated for you. But yeah.
Great. Okay, and I'm just checking the chat here as well, making sure we're good. Oh, Travis, I saw you sent that over. Okay, great. So moving right along, and sorry, oh, he actually swapped you out for Matt.
I saw.
Paris, whenever presentations here. So Matt is our lead developer and lead designer here. That's him. And he's just, again, reiterating, this is a typical, when we're in office and you know, things aren't all remote, but we do these remotely now. Anyone can do this. We just refer to them as our whiteboard sessions, and it's really what helps us put together that first draft of what a website will look like. And it's basically taking your sitemap and laying it out in a visual sense. So just kind of sharing that one more time. We did talk about it a little bit last week. Travis, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to this particular slide.
To this one, not really, but doing this sort of whiteboarding, this will give you an idea of the content that's going to be on your site. which from an SEO perspective, that may give you a little bit more of a preparation phase, knowing that you'll have to add certain things.
Yeah, for sure. And every element of this, with this being the front end, so the nav bar being that menu, which is that about, that contact, that services, the learn more, all of that, that's where that falls. The video header, whether it's a video or a photo, on the back end, we talked about a little bit earlier, these are all those things where there's like these back end SEO things that Travis would do as an example in his role to ensure that they're SEO, that they're optimized. When you're having your mission or doing service highlights, meet the team, whatever the sections might be on your own website, he's referring to as you're working on that copy or the words that are going to be, we're going to actually, I think in the next slide or so, get into what keywords and key phrases are and why those are important for your SEO as well. So keeping that in mind, that this is all copy and content that is actually, the wording of it is going to be really relevant to making sure that your site is optimized. So to kind of move right along, perfect, I was right, it is next. Travis, do you want to lead us off here?
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to make one correction. I made it in the chat, but I know if somebody's watching, they may not see the chat later on. Earlier before, we mentioned submitting sitemaps, and I brought up Google My Business. A correction to that, it is actually called Google Search Console, which is where you can control things like your sitemap and get some more insight to your search results and how people are finding your website. But yeah, I just wanted to make that correction.
Wonderful. And it's to reiterate, it's in the chat there, and he sent the direct support link. So anybody that wants to copy and paste that or save it for later to give it a whirl, you can do that. Okay.
Okay, awesome. So what is a keyword, a key phrase, algorithm, what? So I think earlier when search engine optimization started coming into people's minds, I think the first thing people would start thinking of is keywords. So with that in mind, people would start making pages where they repeat the same thing over and over. So say, I don't know why I picked nachos, but say I had a nacho shop in Wilkes-Barre, and if I made a page that said, this nacho shop is the best nacho shop in Wilkes-Barre because the nachos. Nowadays, that's sort of what's called shady SEO practices, because as those web crawlers would go through, earlier on, they may have seen, oh, this site really has to do with nachos, so they rank it higher up for nachos. But over time, as programmers got smarter and they created better algorithms to make these predictions about the content of the website. Nowadays, if you're spamming keywords, that could actually be sort of detrimental to your index. So as time goes on, and in the news, like if you wanted to do a search for Google changes algorithm, you'll see that constantly they're always changing how your website is being ranked. So nowadays, since AI is sort of improving and you can sort of have a better understanding of the content of the website just by analyzing the text, they can determine whether you're being spammy or whether you actually have fruitful information and it's a helpful website. So one thing we keep in mind as we're sort of developing the content and titles and descriptions for pages is, what are people searching for? For example, when you put in a search query into Google, you're not just typing nachos, you're typing out like a bigger phrase. So, and down below we have what people are actually typing when they search. So I'm typing, if I want to find nachos in Wilkes-Barre, I'm typing nachos in Wilkes-Barre. So the content of my site should have sentences or phrases that match that exact search query. So if I said Travis's nachos are the best nachos in Wilkes-Barre, and that appeared in the description, it's more likely to show up rather than just spamming nachos like 1,000 times. So I guess the bigger picture view of this is keep in mind what people are actually typing into the search bar. They're not just typing nachos, nachos, nachos. They're typing nachos in context with something else.
And to take it a step further, because I think a lot of us are used to typing in our search queries, but these days, I mean, I know I talk to my phone, I talk to my Amazon Alexa at home, and I'm asking my robot friends specific questions like, where can I find this thing? Or what is this thing? Or tell me more, which I think that
exactly
key phrases or longer sentences. So again, that's even another update to make. Let's see here. Somebody did send over, is this a good example? Well, I received a private message. I'll hold off on that for 2 seconds. But so again, as Travis is noting, that things are constantly changing and it could be a little bit difficult at times to keep up with, but that would be one of the more pressing things right now is don't repeat your keywords a bunch of times because it will be a red flag within various search engines. And beyond saying, nachos, 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 just one time doing the phrases of like nachos in Wilkes-Barre, whatever it might be. So I love that nachos is the example here. It's wonderful.
William had asked the question, is it true that some include misspellings of searches to gain position? I haven't heard of that before. My inclination would be that that's probably not a very good strategy, especially because Google does correct common misspellings.
Right.
However, that there may be some truth to that, which is
I know like in the domain name world that people will buy up domain names that would be similar to whatever their name would be. A lot of people will call us Cool Creation rather than Cool.
Yeah, true.
Technically, if we again, but would it end up being frowned upon? Most likely, once Google kind of caught on, but it has been done.
Yeah, I would imagine that's sort of viewed as a more shady approach, because the actual content, like with Google's algorithms now, they may see that if you're making typos, your rank may dip a little bit because they're like, oh, this person is not correctly spelling things. So that could be part of the algorithm, which brings the algorithm back full circle.
I think what's great is we're going to segue into talking a little bit about different examples. Well, before we do that, we're going to talk about, is it worth having social media and how that might tie into SEO, but then we're going to talk a little bit about more examples of what you can do, like blogs and content writing, things like that, that will help with your SEO. Before we do that, and sorry, I'm receiving a couple private messages here. I'll read those in a second, I promise. I know this came up last week as well, so just kind of reiterating, and Travis, you can jump in as well, but the question is it worth having social media? When it comes down to it, and pretty much just reading, because this is what it comes down to, is that it is free and it's another opportunity for you to open results. So there's a lot of times, especially if it's a newer website, let's say your Facebook is a little bit, maybe you've had the Facebook for 5 years and you just built the website, your Facebook might honestly be the first thing that pops up for quite some time. So it's not the end of the world to have that. The note that I have here is, or Travis as well, is to keep in mind that less is typically more. And what we're saying there is, I know especially when everything was first going online and going more digital, it was, okay, every platform, I need to have it. I need to have a Facebook, I need to have an Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube and Google Plus, which is now obsolete. And it was just this long laundry list of all of these different platforms that have all different sizes for graphics and all different character limits and all different, and you're supposed to speak to people one way on this one and one way on that. And then all of a sudden you're spending all of your time managing 6 social platforms, but you still have a business to run. So What it comes down to is that was the old way of doing things because you just want to be on everything and be where everybody was trying to be. But just regular humans, I know I'm more so on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. Those are my top three. So that's where I put my own content. Same rule of thumb for business or service or whatever you're trying to do is figure out which platforms should you be on. So if your target audience is primarily on that Facebook world or in LinkedIn or whatever it might be, just focus on building out your pages there and don't spread yourself too thin because you end up having these various platforms that kind of go silent, and that could have a negative impact that if somebody went to your old Twitter that hasn't been tweeted at in 3 years and they think, oh, maybe this business or individual no longer exists, or not the individual, you get what I'm saying, the idea, the product, whatever it might be. So that's my spiel. I don't know, Travis, if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, definitely the first impression thing is something to keep in mind. And that's probably more like a branding view of it, which obviously is very, very, very important. But from an SEO perspective, and just to sort of bring that search result thing back, is that having that stronger presence on those fewer social media platforms probably does help to rank that social media higher up. If there's more activity and more content on that social media platform, it's probably going to be ranked higher up rather than a less popular, less active social media platform.
Sure. Quick question from Christine. We'll answer this before we jump back into the SEO. Something we talked a little bit about last week was, since less is more, how often should you be posting to social media? Since it is a valid and important question, we could definitely chat about it for a minute here. The typical rule of thumb has always been the approach of, any day that you're open is a day that you could or should post, but that can also be overwhelming in a lot of ways. Depending on the week and the industry and the service or product, et cetera, that you are offering, all of those different factors would come in. We would recommend to anyone going no less than twice a week, but just so it's a little bit more manageable and it feels a little bit more consistent. But again, that's a little bit more of an in-depth question where we would want to say, who are you, what are you doing, what are your goals, etc. And then it's a little bit more helpful to be able to answer that. So I hope that gives at least just a general rule of thumb response there. So to segue again, and it's kind of in this tips section. So we're talking about giving you all these different definitions, talking about web crawlers, talking about all this back end stuff that we can't really show you because it gets a little bit too specific for a 1-hour session like this. We definitely don't want to walk away without you feeling like, well, what's something I could do or maybe work on or look into or learn a little bit more about so that I feel like I have a better grasp. So here's a nice page of tips that Travis had laid out. Travis, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Oh, sorry. What was that?
If you want to just go through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Tip 1, blog posts are good. Be consistent. So blog posts are a really good way for you to introduce those key phrases into your website. So, and using all kinds of different topics and approaches, you can use those keywords or those key phrases in your post content so that if people are searching for those key phrases, your website, maybe that specific blog post about that certain question can appear. So this sort of wraps into the next one. Frequently asked questions pages are great too. If you've noticed recently, Google has been doing this thing where when you search a question, you'll get this highlighted answer at the very top. This also ties into being able to talk to your Google Home or your Alexa, where you can ask a question. Whose answer is appearing first? If you are answering that question and answering it well and getting a lot of hits, that is an opportunity for you to sort of be the authority on that question. So this wraps up with the first two, with blog posts and frequently asked questions. Take the opportunity and the real estate on your website take the opportunity to answer some questions that people might have. It'll be helpful for people. It'll help your sort of authority on the topic, and it may put you at the top result for a specific question if you answer it well enough.
Just before you move on, going even a little bit beyond that with the blog posts or even the FAQs, but especially blog posts, one note I want to make is they don't all have to be 10 to 20 paragraphs each or anything like that, as long as it's substantial and to the point. Now, I'm not saying make blog posts that are a sentence or two. That's not really a blog, but a good strong paragraph or so could go a long way as well. So if you're feeling like, okay, well, I don't have a super long thing to write about this week, you can find a balance. So I don't want you to get too overwhelmed in that sense as well, because it's just adding another thing to your to-do list in a lot of ways. But what's really nice is that once you have the blog post and you have the link that goes to that blog post, not only is it helping your SEO on your website, but if you do have those social platforms, you also now have a new post that you can post about and share to your platforms and drive people back to your website, especially if your goal is to get people to your website. So there's a couple different pros there that come along with creating those beyond the SEO. So go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add on to that as well, mentioning just writing like a short, strong paragraph and linking out to something. You can link out to other websites that are related to yours or that you find interesting and that you just want to share with people. And having those outbound links from your website actually help you in your search results. That's sort of a more in-depth thing. But having outbound links to other websites and having internal links to other pages on your website, those are a couple things to keep in mind that actually do help out with your SEO.
Great.
All right, and jumping to the next one. Google has free SEO auditing tools built into Google Chrome. And this is probably a little more advanced to keep in mind. But there's a tool called Google Lighthouse. You could actually search this, and it'll bring you to the site for it, Google Lighthouse. It's also built into Google Chrome. If you are on Google Chrome and you push the F12 button, this brings up your developer tools, and there's a little section called Audits. And you can run an audit on your web page, and it will, if you check the SEO tick mark,
well,
it will.
If you want to the thing that we are surprised every week, we usually say, hey, send us who wants us to review their social media or their website. We're actually going to ask one or two of you if you're going to be willing to be ran through the Lighthouse feature live during this session. So we'll how to get to that in 2 minutes. Sorry, Travis, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, for sure.
You can share your screen right after you get through the rest of the tips.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, what those audits do, they tell you where you can improve and what changes you can make to make your SEO ranking go a little higher.
Awesome.
Image quality versus load times. This is also sort of a more, I guess sort of more advanced, but not super advanced. One thing to keep in mind is that not everybody has blazing fast internet. I lived in Benton for a while. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that area, but it'll be often referred to as the middle of nowhere where I lived. And the internet was not very fast. So one thing to keep in mind is that the bigger images are and the higher quality they are, the longer of a load time it'll have, which in 2020, most people aren't really thinking about. Because we're blessed with great internet in the United States mostly. But if people are viewing this internationally and their website speeds may not be the greatest, they don't want to have to sit there for 30 seconds while your image that's way too big for what it has to be loads. So the reason I say PNG versus JPEG is that the sizes of those two formats are vastly different. If you have a JPEG, you can tweak it so that the quality, it's not going to be the best it can be, but it'll sort of be a compromise where the image quality, it'll let it load a little faster versus having to sit there and wait for it. And there are some more tips we can get into later on if anybody has questions with image formats, but I won't sit on that one for too long.
This one is the way that I break it down in my head is we live in a society of instant gratification. And if a website takes a few minutes to load, like I work in the industry and I still will get frustrated and forget to create a little bit of grace for a website that won't load as quickly as I want it to because I want it to be as fast as possible. So these are elements and things that people definitely take into consideration. Basically, you don't want people hopping off your website before they ever have a chance to see it. So these things can just be helpful to keep in mind. Again, a little bit higher level, but there might be some of you on the session today that are aware of what that might be able to do.
Right.
And the last
Yeah.
but not
Last we have Google My Business is great for being found by local customers. So if you are a business owner or a brand owner, what you can do is register your business through what's called Google My Business. And you have to verify that you own your website through some trickier means, but there are guides for it. They're sort of, it's Google Lighthouse. But so you have to prove that you have ownership of your domain, your .com. And once you do that, you have the ability to create a profile for your website, which includes things like your phone number, your address, your hours, things people will be searching for. And why this is really, really great for being found by local customers. When people search for your business name or your hours, it'll be one of the first things you see on the screen. It usually dedicates like a big half of the screen to it with your hours and sort of when people are there and things like that. But yeah, it's free. It helps your search indexing quite a bit. So it's definitely worth looking into if you have not done that already.
Travis, Mark did message over about what about video format. If you want to speak to that a little bit, or we could share the approach we take.
Yeah, for sure. So video is a little bit more complicated because you have to keep in mind that there are things like different bit rates, which change the quality of the video. I think the standard right now for what people are using, if you use an MP4 video, then you could sort of tweak the bit rate as to what is necessary. And that's a whole thing in itself, I think, optimizing video for web. But I think just keep in mind that MP4 is probably what you're going to usually end up with.
Okay. Let's see, is Google My Business relevant if you were only online with no physical presence?
That's a tricky one. I was thinking about this yesterday, and I think you can still sort of list yourself as a service in a local area. It would take a little bit of looking into, but I want to say the answer is yes, because you can still list contact info, such as emails and phone numbers and different things like that. And you have your branding and everything. As soon as people search for it, they may see your logo and things like that.
Yeah, there's like a way to do that. It's interesting because I think they're leaning more into being able to do that without the physical location. It's just that they ask for that address, and sometimes they have to send you postcards to get certain things verified and whatnot. And that's so.
Yeah.
But I think they're getting better with that as well. Okay. Travis, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. Do fave icons help with SEO? That's a good question. I would imagine having one versus not having one, it may, from an algorithm standpoint, it may make your website appear more legitimate. So I would say possibly, but I can't say for sure.
So we have a little less than 15 minutes left here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, Travis, if you can start sharing yours. And if you wouldn't mind just doing the showing them how they can get to Lighthouse, just as like a takeaway. And
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And you can I just stopped sharing.
Okay. Stand by here. Share screen. Screen 1, share. Okay. So you should see the cool creative site. Is that true?
I am personally
I
not.
see Margaret nodding. Is that right? Okay. Holly, you do not see the screen?
I don't. I mean, if everybody else does, that's fine. I trust you.
It's on. It's on.
It's on? Okay, very good.
Yes, it's on.
Okay, cool. All right. So here I just have the Cole Creative site. So I'll just show you this real quick. If you press F12 in Google Chrome, I'll bring this over here. This will open up the Chrome Dev Tools. So there's a lot of scary stuff in here, obviously. But if you go to this one here called Audits, and there's a few different things you can do here. So you can apply a mobile view or a desktop view, and you can choose these different things to audit, such as accessibility. Are you using best web practices? Does your site perform well? The one we'll do for this example here is SEO. And you can also throttle it the internet speed. So if you wanted to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who may have a slower speed, you can do that. But for this, I'll just leave it no throttle. And what clearing the storage does is it clears out all the images, it clears out everything that's cached so that it has to re-download it. So I will do that. And one pretty cool thing about this is when you're doing this audit, you get some little SEO tips from Google. So for example, if a site takes greater than 1 second, people may leave. All right, and so this is a little example of what will appear. It will tell you some of the things that passed, and hopefully this is big enough for everybody to see. If not, it's just at least an idea here. But it will tell you some things that you can check. It will tell you some things that have passed and some things that don't really apply to your website. So yeah, that's if you have Google Chrome, you can just press F12 and open up those dev tools. Otherwise, if you search Google Lighthouse, it should be this first result here, and here's their icon and everything for that. And it gives you a little more information on how it's done.
And this is something we do with our own website, so you can see there, and this is where my brain goes. We pulled it up last night, and we have a score of 91, which is green, and that's good. But also now Travis has a new task to get us into the A, because I'm a straight A student over here personally. So what's really nice is that we have somebody like Travis on the team who does understand what came up in red and is able to go and then find and handle those things and increase our own score. And then this is something that just with our existing clientele and whatnot, something that we do as an agency, and but freelancers and other web developers and things like that would be familiar, whether it's with this tool or something similar as well. If there is anybody out there that would want us to, we know it can get a little bit foreign, and you know, the results do come up and you're kind of like, well, what does that mean? We're happy to, if anybody wants to throw out their website to run the tool right now, and we can even follow up with you after if there's anything major that came up to explain it further. We do have one here, so if you wanted to copy and paste that, Travis.
Yeah.
islandgirltravelandvacations.com. The WYF LLC sending over the SEO example. I do have that pulled up. If you can email me after even, just because it's a little bit more in depth than us just opening a page and reviewing something like that. We would need a little bit more time than we have here, if that's okay. So I'll drop my email.
Let me just reopen this here. DevTools. There we go.
Donna Caruso of 11th Element, this whole time, I'm like, how is somebody with my name commenting in this chat for the past hour? And I forgot that I sent you the link, and that's why. Sorry, I'm just pointing that out while you pull this up. Okay.
For some reason, my DevTools are being hidden. Oh, they were hidden by the Zoom chat. There we go. All right, SEO.
Also have to say, I know we're running this, but while we're waiting, is the past 3 sessions has been so exciting to pull up various social media and websites and just learning things that are happening in our area or in surrounding areas. Very cool, just different. Like last week, learned about a yoga and meditation website. This one, the Iron Girl Travel and Vacations. It's like all I want to do is take that vacation right now. So definitely making a nice list of websites to bookmark here. Okay.
Okay.
I know we're putting you on the spot a little bit in your role as well. That you could speak to that might help whoever, I apologize, there's a handful of things, whoever shared that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, I mean, 80 is pretty good. So these are the 2 things that popped up, which are, I would say probably more common, especially this image one. Image elements do not have alt attributes. So what that is, depending on how this site is built, if this site is built on WordPress, that fix is as simple as going into your media library and just going through to all of your images and putting in a sort of descriptor as to what the image is. One thing, there's sort of a few guidelines for this one in particular. But for example, if you imagined that you had difficulty seeing or couldn't see at all, that alt description should be, what is this image? What's happening in it? And yeah, so that's one improvement that can be made there. The other one, this document does not have a meta description. This may be a little trickier to fix depending on how your website's built, but if this is manually coded, this is as simple as adding a line to the HTML page, I believe. But yeah, otherwise, here's the robots.txt that's telling the web crawlers what to do, what pages to look at, what not to look at. So that's that robots thing coming back. But yeah.
That's great. Claire noted that it's a franchise website, so she only has some control over it.
Okay.
Into the input, and definitely will update the blog and FAQ. We work with a couple of different nonprofits. I know Dress for Success is very similar, where you can only get so far into the back end or make your own changes or updates. So Claire, having that control over the blog and FAQ sections is definitely something that can benefit you. Okay, wonderful. I think we have a few more minutes here. And Jolene, I'm looking to you whenever you need to jump in, because I know you typically have a couple notes to make and whatnot, but we could pull up maybe one more here. And there is a question, Travis, I don't know if you could speak to this. Is there a minimum SEO score you would want to have after using a tool like this? I mean, being in the green is always a good goal.
I don't know of like a particular value, but they sort of do a good job of visually showing, like, if you're in the red, if you're in the orange, if you're in the green. So I would imagine you just sort of want to shoot for green if you can. But yeah.
Yeah, because each different tools will translate to, like, where this might be from 90 to 100 is green, 80 to 89 is yellow, whatever. So just aiming for those higher scores. You're talking about the descriptor images, Travis.
Yes.
Somebody did ask, is it as simple as saying like product XYZ color red, or should the descriptions you're talking about in the back end be like, this is a red box that is 2 by 4 inches near an orange background? Like, what what's the better approach there?
I think just not needing to say like this is 2 by 4 inches, but this is this product in this color is good. One thing they even say in the guidelines is if an image is purely decorational, such as like a background image, it doesn't need an alt tag at all, which doesn't really make sense when you're auditing your site on Google and then you get hit for not having an alt tag. So I would, even if something's like a background, typically what I'll do is put like, for example, like this one, I may put like island background image, so that if it comes up on someone's screen reader, they know, oh, it's just a background image. It's not something that's like in the foreground that's important.
Okay. All right. Again, Jolene, looking to you for a second, seeing where we're at with time and if you need to hop back in as well.
I do have a few notes. If you have time to do one more, that would be great. And then we can wrap up.
Yes. And I just remembered as you were saying that there was that one question. Do you want me to answer that really quick now that we're here?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Okay. So there was a question before we came on that was sent to Jolene pre-session around, do I need to hire someone to do my SEO marketing or Google ads? Do I get pay per view or pay per click? How do I decide? I'm so confused about all of this, which is something we hear a lot. And now we did this whole session around SEO. But when we go to that next level of doing any kind of paid ads or the things that are going to amplify your actual SEO and your search results and whatnot, we personally partner with, we have a couple different partners here in downtown Wilkes-Barre to do that, because as I think I said an hour ago now, that the beast of SEO is so large that it's, while we have that, I would say, intermediate to expert level knowledge to get all the basics in there, there are whole companies built around SEO and then putting the money behind it if you have that in your budget to do that. So it's a little bit of if you are not familiar enough with it or don't have the time to put into it, I would recommend hiring somebody, it doesn't have to be in a full-time way, but somebody that can spend enough time consistently with it. I would say yes. And then again, Google ads is a whole kind of deeper conversation around what are your goals and what are you trying to do with those ads that we would want to have around that. So I know that's a little bit higher level, but again, is it pay-per-view, pay-per-click? Those are questions that would need to be answered and just a more deeper kind of that first conversation of asking what are your goals and what are you trying to do here. So apologize, it wasn't a very direct answer, but okay, great, Claire, that was your question. You're welcome. So again, we're happy to either just after these, with any of these sessions, whether you attended all 3 or just this one today, happy to answer any follow-up or additional questions that you might have. And as I noted, if it's anything outside of our realm or that our partners could handle better, we work with other lovely individuals that I know would be happy to answer your questions as well, especially in the world of SEO. So that's all I got. Jolene, back to you.
All right, just to wrap up here, I want to thank Holly and Travis for being here with us today and for sharing their insights on SEO. I just have a few housekeeping notes. I will be making available the recording of the training to the Wilkes University SBDC YouTube channel, and I will email that link to all employees afterward. Also, I'll be emailing all attendees of the Bringing Your Business Online series the link to a post-event survey, just so that we can determine which of our resources will best suit everyone's needs and what topics all of you would like to see as training sessions in the future. One last note, we do have several new online training sessions coming up, so I encourage you to check out our e-center and our social media websites to learn more about those and to register. And tomorrow at 1 p.m. we have a webinar on cybersecurity for small business, which you can register for until 5 p.m. today. So I encourage all of you to sign up for that as well. And with that, I want to thank everyone for attending this training. It's been a pleasure bringing this series to you with Cole Creative. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us at the SBDC. I hope that all of you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing all of you at future webinars. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.